As sports history fans, we often reminisce about the legends. Willis Reed limping on to the NBA Finals court, Curt Schilling's bloody sock, Kerry Strug's courageous dismount, and so many more. These moments often define sports history. But what about the countless injuries that did not become legends, or careers that were derailed due to inadequate care? That's where this episode's sponsor comes in. Introducing to you ILP Sports Consultants, your trusted sports injury partner, available 24/7. Brian Maelli at ILP Sports Consultants has over 20 years of experience in the orthopedic and sports medicine industry, and he has worked with athletes across the gamut, from youth to amateurs, professionals, in almost every sport played in the United States of America, accommodating athletes at every stage of their career. This adaptability ensures that ILP services are perfectly tailored to your skill level, no matter where you are in your athletic journey. With ILP, you are in control. Choose the steps that matter most to you. Diagnosis, treatment plan, recovery, or the whole journey. ILP services are tailored to your unique needs. Rushing for care is a common pitfall, leading to future problems. ILP Sports Consultants helps you make the right decisions, ensuring that you receive timely and safe care. And here's the bonus. Brian hosts the Injured List podcast, sharing insights and athlete stories you won't want to miss. Whether you're a concerned parent or grandparent, or an athlete yourself seeking guidance, ILP Sports Consultants is your beacon of hope in sports injury management. Visit ilpsports.com today. That's the letters ilpsports.com. ILP Sports Consultants, where your well-being is the priority and your recovery is the mission. Choose ILP Sports Consultants for a healthier sports journey, helping you get back in the game the smart way.
Blog Talk Radio.
Tonight we'll go back in time to seasons past, when 22 men graced the rugged fields of yesterday, fighting for one more first down, one more yard gain, one final score that would bring victory after 60 minutes of battle on the gridiron. Tonight, for the world of Gridiron Greats, welcome to Gridiron Greats Football History and its memorabilia on the Gridiron Greats Publishing and Broadcasting Network. We're live from the Southport, North Carolina home of Gridiron Greats Magazine. I'm Bob Swick, publisher and editor of Gridiron Greats Magazine, and I'll be your host for the show. Gridiron Greats is the only publication in America that focuses upon the history and memorabilia of the North American football game since its inception in 1869. We cover 150-plus years of football history and memorabilia, and you can find us on the web at GridironGreatsMagazine.com. It is at this time I'd like to introduce my special guest co-host. He is a senior contributing writer to Gridiron Greats Magazine, a football memorabilia with one of the most advanced early football collections in the country, especially for the Pottstown Maroons and other early college and NFL football teams. He's the driving force behind vintage football community, and he hails from Virginia. I'd like to welcome to our show as our guest co-host, Mr. Jeff Payne. Jeff, welcome to the show this evening.
Hey, Bob, how you doing? Man, you are in rare form tonight. The move south is agreeing with you, I guess, huh?
We're neighbors now. We're a stone's throw from each other.
Maybe, I don't know what kind of stone, but welcome to the South, Bob.
It's
welcome
more like a meteorite or something. It's very much a different vibe and a different way of life down here. I'm still trying to get used to it. Today's day 43 that we've been down here while our house is being built, and we're looking at hopefully moving into the new house in November, and I'll be very happy when that happens. I got everything in storage, and we're currently renting a small condo here, and it's very, very different to say the least. But anyways, thanks for filling in. Our regular co-host, Joe Squires, is on vacation. He is diving in the Galapagos Islands this week.
Good for Joe.
And Jeff eloquently has volunteered to be our guest co-host, and I thank you very much. And I want to hand off to you, Jeff. I think you've made some pretty interesting new acquisitions over the past year. Can you tell our audience about a few things you picked up for your collection?
Yeah, sure. Be happy to. This year has been bizarre. I think you would agree, right? With the pandemic and everything, I was kind of going back through my notes to even look at, like, what did I get this year? And, overall, definitely quantity down. Just, I think, with the prices being as crazy as, we've all talked in the past. Quality still up, but quantity down. I think the biggest ones for me, a few purchases that were Thorpe related. I love all things Jim Thorpe. Obviously, I think the biggest one for me was a lot of 6 Carlisle football real photo postcards from 1912 that I was able to snag off eBay. Of course, that was Jim Thorpe's senior year, so you figure if they were legit, he's in them, so it's always hard to tell on eBay, whether something's legit or not, or what,
Correct.
Are they real? Is this true? Is this really just some random, postcards from some other team? But fortunately, one of the postcards in the lot was a single shot of Jim Thorpe kicking the ball. It's a shot that's pretty well known, and I've seen it before. And as soon as I saw that one, I was like, oh, that's Thorpe. So I was like, well, gosh, I wonder how many of these other ones he's in the pictures of these kind of, random action shots. So I took a shot at it and ended up winning those and got those in hand. And I've been able to identify Thorpe in 5 of the 6 postcards, which is pretty cool. 2 of them he's carrying the ball. The other ones he's on defense. But I've never seen them. Other than that one, I've never seen these images before. And they are so cool.
When you had said that you had picked them up, I went back and I looked, and then I said to myself, I have never seen anything like that before. So that is beyond rare as far as I'm concerned. And that's truly an amazing pickup, to say the least. Which card can't you identify? Is it a player? Is it that I'm trying to think back. Because you said you identified 5 of the 6.
Yeah, other than the one with Thorpe kicking by himself, all the rest of them are like action shots. So they're all in action. It shows like a whole bunch of people. And like I mentioned, 2 of them that has Thorpe carrying the ball. One of them, actually, one of the other advanced collectors, a Thorpe collector, he sent me an image that he found online or in one of the archives of one of those pictures. And it actually has a title underneath it that says Thorpe's carrying the ball, and it says who the Springfield College player is that was tackling him or chasing him. So that one was a confirmed, another confirmed image. The other ones, it was just like, I had to just look at the players, and the ones he was carrying the ball, it was easy because he was facing the camera. A couple of the other ones, it was kind of from the side, or one was from the back. I mean, Thorpe sticks out because he was so big for his, and so thick for his, his era. And he's a pretty distinctive face and neck, and of course, the uniform, all their uniforms were sort of the same, but also a little different, so you could kind of pick that out. The one I can't find him, he might be in the bottom of a pile. I don't know. I mean, none of the players that I can see their face or that are, kind of separated enough from the masses, none of them are him. So he's either out of the game or he's buried in the middle of the scrum. Who knows?
Right. Right. And I'm wondering why they or how the set was produced. As we all know, there's a lot of stuff still being discovered in the hobby, especially when it comes to player postcards from that time frame. You have any guesses as far as how and why they printed that set?
Yeah, so one of the same advanced collector who sent me that picture said that he had read, and I think I did track it down, interestingly enough, that game was pretty famous. It was Jim Thorpe's second to last game as a college player. And, of course, he attracted big crowds even in college when he played. And so they were up at Springfield. He scored all the points, by the way, Carlisle. They won 30-24. He scored all 30 points. So it was also a big game for him. But what I heard was that Naismith, who, of course, invented basketball, and he did it while he was at Springfield College, right? It was called the Springfield Y whatever back then, before then, that he came home to visit some of the professors, brought his camera with him, set it up on the sidelines, and was the one that took the photos. And then they created postcards to commemorate the game and to commemorate being there thereafter. That's what I heard. And there was some stuff I found on the Springfield College site, the archive, talking about him and him coming back to the university to visit and this game happening. And so, sounded pretty credible to me. So they could have come from his camera. It's kind of cool, actually.
Right. Well, it makes it even more historically significant with Dr. Naismith actually taking the pictures, having them produced there locally, and then marketing them. And how many could actually have been printed, and how many were actually sold and found to this day. I'd venture to say if there's maybe two or three of each card in existence, that's probably a lot. You know what I mean? That's just my guess on it, one way or the other.
Well,
so beyond,
I know that
another
the
beyond
Thorpe
rare
postcard. The Thorpe postcard of him just by himself, I know of 3. So that's the only reason I knew what these were when I saw that one. I know there's 3 out there because 2 others have come up for auction. So I'm guessing, there's a good chance the other ones are floating around. The problem with those is since you can't identify the players unless you knew it was from this game. And by the way, the only reason the seller knew it was from this game was these 6 postcards were in an envelope. He bought it at a estate sale, and it had an envelope, and on the outside of it, it said 1912 Carlisle versus Springfield football. And he didn't even know Jim Thorpe was in it. He didn't know anything about these. He just posted them on the on eBay, and nowhere in his description did he say the word Thorpe. So he didn't know anything about the game. He didn't do any checking. A simple Google search would have told him, that Thorpe was in this game, but he didn't do it. So. Wow.
Unbelievable. Well, it still shows, it still proves to me that there are bargains that can be found, number one, and number two, if you understand football history and you're, do your homework, you can find things out there. And I always said one of the last areas before the pandemic, in my opinion, that was a great area for new finds were paper shows and postcard shows, because you never know what's going to be in a dealer's box. And you spend the time going through them. You'll be shocked what you find in some of these, at some of these shows. And I just hope those types of shows come back again, because there will be more finds in the future for many, many early college and professional team type postcards, to say the least. So, that's a great find. Unbelievable.
Really,
now, I know you
really
went to
happy about it.
You went to the National, and did you pick up anything at the National? I'm just curious. I mean, I know you did, but anything
Yeah,
good
I picked
from,
up I picked up some cool things. I picked up a nice advertising piece from the 30s with Ken Strong, obviously Hall of Famer, college and pro Hall of Famer on it. I love vintage advertisements, especially for things that they're not allowed to advertise for anymore, right? Like tobacco and, you don't see as much, liquor and stuff like that, advertisements. This is a beautiful brandy. It's big. It's got Strong in the middle. It's for a brandy company. It's just a really nice classic piece. I was just walking along talking to, people at the booth, and I was chatting with this guy, and, he asked what I was looking for, and I always say I'm looking for pre-war football, and he just, reaches under the cabinet, and he just pulls this out. I'm like, what is this? And he's like, you said you like football. I have this thing, and I thought you might like it. I was like, well, yeah, this is really sharp. So I ended up picking up that, which was cool, and, a few other things that were kind of nice. But that was one that was just totally unexpected. I didn't expect this guy to pull this out of his, his boxes below.
Yeah.
Didn't even have it laying out.
Yeah.
Mostly baseball stuff up top, as usual. But that was a pretty nice piece. I'm going to get it framed and hang it somewhere.
That's good. Good pickups for your collection, to say the least. And getting back to the Thorpe postcards again, how many postcards? And I know I asked you this question years ago. What do you estimate as far as how many Carlisle postcards or different? Let me rephrase that. Different position or different types of Thorpe postcards from his college years do you think were printed, as far as position or photos, different types of action shots, so on and so forth? Do you have any idea on that?
I can say between action shots like these and team postcards with him in it, I would guess around 15 that I know about total, including track, right? Like, Olympic, track stuff. There's not a huge amount of action shots out there of him in general, right? Even pro or college.
Right.
But I'd say 15 or 20, probably different ones. I'm actually working on, hopefully, an article for you, Bob, for Gridiron Greats magazine. Working on a couple articles. One of them is on actually more of a kind of a checklist of Thorpe quote cards, including not just what we would call traditional cards, but things like postcards and other things that you would, they're cardboard, closest you're going to probably get for Thorpe, right, in his playing days. There's not a lot.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Not a lot of stuff out there.
Right. It was interesting because I was going through my notes this afternoon looking at, because I know I asked you the question, I asked a couple people the question, and basically what I wrote down was between 15 and 25, 25 being the high, 15 being the low. We're pretty much in agreement there is at least 15, probably more like 20, and there could be a few obscure pieces out there which would increase the amount of actual shots of him on the postcard. So but it's still active out there. There still can be some new finds for postcards, to say the least, or any type of postcards like that.
Yeah, they're hiding out there somewhere.
Yeah,
they're out there.
I think the key is knowing what you're looking for and studying pictures of that era, especially from archives, school websites, so on and so forth, old football books, which to me are just an incredible area of history for the early game of football, both college and professional, and seeing some of those photos in there and trying to match faces with the postcards, so on and so forth. You can still find stuff out there, to say the least. I've always said that there's more out there. And
yeah,
you've proven
there's
it
definitely
time and time again with what you've been finding.
Well, you got to watch on eBay. Like you said, you never know what's going to show up on eBay. People are down on eBay. There's nothing there. It's not the same. But I tell you, if you just keep working it, occasionally something will pop up that's special.
Yep. I agree. It's it's literally a full-time job to look at all the auctions that are out there, and you pretty much get a handle, an idea of seeing what's what out there, who has what, so on and so forth. But eBay still is the great and vast unknown as far as what you're looking at, what you're seeing, and what you're trying to find in the market there. So it's pretty interesting, to say the least.
Yep.
All right. Our special guest is here, and I'd like to introduce him and get on with our next part of our show. Our special guest tonight is pastor at the Granite United Church in Lawrence, Massachusetts. He's husband of an amazing wife who indulges his hobby, and even shops for some of his favorite cards. He's also father to 2 little girls, ages 6 and 8. He has lived about 30 minutes north of Boston, Massachusetts his entire life, and has been collecting sports cards on and off since 1983 when he was 10 years old. He got into football cards in the mid-1990s. He's a huge fan of Pedro Martinez and the entire Boston New England Patriots dynasty, and those make up the majority of his collection. The PSA set registry changed the game for him and really brought the hobby to a whole new level for him. He hails from Massachusetts. I'd like to welcome to our show tonight Mr. Joe Guerin. Joe, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me here and giving me an excuse to indulge in the hobby for an afternoon. Nothing I like doing more than flipping through the cards and talking sports.
Good. You got me homesick tonight. So being from New England, as I said before, this is the first fall I'm not up there in 62 years. But at the same time, this is the first time I figured out in 56 years I'm not raking leaves this fall. Kind of a nice
That's
break
a benefit for you, right?
Pros and cons to everything. I figured I'd started raking leaves when I was 6 years old at my parents' house, and I've done it for 56 plus years. So it's kind of neat not to worry about it. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about. Joe, I'm going to lead off and ask you, how did you become a fan of football and the Boston New England Patriots?
Well, I was a shrewd investor. That's how. In 1983, I got into baseball cards, and I was a huge baseball fan for a 10-year-old, and was in it passionately. I watched the other sports a little bit, but I wasn't really vested in it. But then in 1993, when the Patriots drafted Drew Bledsoe, there was so much hype, so much excitement that I decided I was going to be a shrewd investor, and for the first time ever buy a card, not because I was a fan, but because I was going to retire off these things one day. So I bought myself a 1994 finest Drew Bledsoe rookie card, and not even the 93 SP. I bought a 94 finest. And as you can imagine, I have not bought a house off my profits from that. But because I had it, I'm like, all right, I bought it. There's so much hype. This guy is going to change the franchise. Let's start watching some football. And as soon as I started watching Drew Bledsoe, NFL just hooked me in and quickly became the sport I paid the most attention to.
Wow,
that's a great story.
Yeah, like
great story.
I gotta throw out my story. I got a couple of years on you, Joe. Back in 1976, my buddy and I used to drive up to Foxborough. My mom would make us a couple sandwiches and a couple bottles of Coca-Cola and a bag of potato chips, and we go up there for the day for the game. We did not have tickets. We'd buy them, believe it or not, at the stadium, and then just work our way down through the game. Now, again, the Patriots were not that great back in the 70s, so we decided because, again, if you probably remember, Foxborough had one way in and one way out there. Trying to get out of there was incredible. So we would leave sometimes right after halftime and head home back to North Branford, Connecticut. And, wow, what memories of where they've been and where they are today. It's just incredible, to say the least.
Amen.
So, wow.
Yeah, that Route 1's a mess. it's still a mess. It's not as bad as it was, but
and nothing could beat Foxborough. That's all I got to say. Nothing. I can still remember this to this day. We went to a preseason game. I'll never forget. It was the Eagles and the Patriots, and it was a Saturday night game. And we literally got home like 3:00 Sunday morning. After the traffic was it was a preseason game on top of it. And there was a couple big accidents, so like the road was shut off. And like my buddy and I are both saying, "Wow, we should just get a room up here." And they said, "Nah, we'll sleep in the car or whatever." And then we just toughed it out, and then we finally got home. What a trip! What a game that was. Anyways, that's a great story on board. I like that one.
That is a great story. Well, it's good to have another Patriots fan on here, Joe. You know, I mean, we got to gang up on Bob. You know, being from up there, he's not a Patriots fan, a Packers fan, but I'm a lifelong Patriots fan too. So, yeah, I predate you by a little bit, but, you know, I always tell people when they ask me who my team is, I always say I'm a lifelong Patriots fan, just to, you know, separate myself from the Johnny-come-latelys, you know. When I was growing up, there was only one other kid in my high school that was a fan of the Patriots. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, that's why. And we used to commiserate because they weren't very good at that time. And then they got good, and I saw him actually at a college reunion. And I was all excited to see, or a high school reunion, I was all excited to see him. I was like, "Oh, man, good to see you. You still like the Patriots?" He goes, "No, I gave up on them a long time ago." So,
poor timing there.
Yeah, I know. He made a bad decision. But it's funny you mentioned your Drew Bledsoe card. So how did you get involved with collecting? I know you collect autographed Patriots cards. How did you get into that part of the hobby? And do you have Bledsoe and Brady autograph cards? You know, Brady's rookie was the one you really want, right?
Yeah, Brady's one I really want. It's still it's a white whale for me because it's a little out of my price range. He's a little pricey. So again, going back to the childhood stuff, it's so much of this hobby. You know, while it's no longer cheap, it's just so much nostalgia. And for me, when I was 13, 14. I was doing a lot of through the mail autographs, mailing it to the teams, all baseball back then. But, you know, when I would get those back, man, I just thought that was the coolest stuff ever. Like, I just assumed that, you know, it was a super rare collectible, which it is compared to just your base card. But then to think about the player, you know, holding it and signing it and sending it back, to me, it just helped me connect even more. And, man, I just loved it. So then, you know, fast forward years later, and, you know, when the pack started making, you know, you get it right from the pack, autograph from the player, it just kind of translated for me as still, man, this is even cooler. This is even, you know, more special. And, you know, some people think it's you know, hype or the new junk era, and they could be right. But for me, this has always been hobby first. So even if it is, that won't bother me too much. But yeah, so I've just been passionately pursuing everybody that is part of especially the last 21 years of the Patriots. I try to get PSA graded rookie from everybody that was a key part of those teams. And then I also try to get an autograph card of them as well.
Wow. That's fantastic. Yeah, I dig autographs. I mean, I didn't start there either, and I don't have a boatload of autograph cards, but you know, a good buddy of Bob and I, Todd Tobias, he's like Mr. AFL, and he's Mr. Autographs from the AFL. And I don't know, just looking at his stuff over the years in different forms, and actually got a chance to get out to where he lives one time and looking at some of them, it's kind of cool to not just have a card of a player, but have their autograph on that card, right? And so I've kind of gotten into it a bit. You're way into it for your Patriot stuff.
Yeah, I love it. And it's just, you know, for me, it was the whole hobby. Like, I was all in as a child, you know, up to my, you know, probably about 20-ish. And it was something that, you know, after I was in it for a few years, my dad did it with me. You know, he enjoyed sports. He had never really collected, but it was a great father-son thing. And those are some of the most cherished memories. You know, my dad's still with me. Still, he doesn't collect anymore. He likes to talk about my cards. But, you know, those when I look back on those early days, it was just such a great quality time. And, you know, then the junk era finally became the junk era. Everything imploded. My dad and I remember we bought this is going baseball. I won't talk a lot of baseball, but we bought a 1990 Topps shipper that they have in the supermarkets because we were going to make bank. we were going to cash in big time. We had stacks of every rookie from 1990 Topps, and we knew we were going to be rolling in it. And yeah, we were rolling in it all right. So, but yeah, so I ended up, you know, I moved out of the house, got a job, all that stuff, and the hobby started to take a back seat. I never really quit. Like, I always carried the cards with me, and, you know, maybe I'd pick up a card or two a year, but not too much. And then probably about 7 years ago, my parents built a new home, and my father called me up, and I had my cards with me, and he kept all his stuff at home. And he said, you know, hey, Joe, we're moving our stuff out, and these cards aren't coming with me, so come get them. He's like, I don't care what you do with them. You can throw them away if they're garbage. You can keep them. You can sell them, keep the money, do whatever you want with them, but none of them are coming with me, so come over here and take it all out. So I went and I got all of his stuff, and in my house, you know, I had a, you know, pretty good-sized stack of cards. A lot of it was junk, you know. A lot of it was Chris Sabos and Matt Noakes, and, you know, then when I got his stack, which was just as big, I'm like, man, what am I going to do with all this stuff? Like, it's just an overwhelming amount, and I have no place to store this. So it became, you know, just something I spent many, many hours sorting through it, and you're just sorting out, this was the good stuff, this was the junk, and man, it just sucked me right back in. The hobby just pulled me right back in, and I had so much going on. At the time, I was I work at a supermarket up here called Market Basket. I used to work there. I was a dairy manager. So I'd be working on a lot of hours there. I was also pastoring, and I was also a husband and father to 2 small children. So I had a lot going on. And
busy guy.
Yeah, and there just wasn't a lot of downtime. And when I sorted through all those cards, and it was like, oh wow, this is like 13 again. Like, 0 responsibilities, and it was just such a decompression for me that it just brought the hobby back to life. And I'm just like, man, I'm all in now. So what I started doing was, you know, while I had 75% of my collection was junk from the junk era, but my dad, you know, he had real income when we were collecting back then, so he had some nicer stuff. And I started just sorting through all of it, and all the guys that I wasn't a fan of, I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to start selling these off on, you know, eBay or Facebook and letting that money store up in PayPal, and then I'm going to go after the iconic cards from my youth, the ones that were like the untouchables, cards that I could only dream about. So that's how I started. I started selling, like, you know, Ricky Henderson rookies who just wasn't interested. And I started going after, you know, I have vintage. I got a 1933 Babe Ruth. I got a couple T206s like Cy Young and Walter Johnson. Started going after those iconic cards that, like, I never thought I would ever see in person, let alone own. And, you know, and then it quickly became, you know, not enough. The hobby pulls you right in. And Pedro Martinez was always my favorite player. And the set registry, man, did it change the game for me, because Pedro Martinez, I think, is one of the most underrated players ever, which is saying a lot because he's well respected. But what he did during the steroid era was just unbelievable. But all of his cards are all in the junk era, so they were all worthless. There was nothing to chase. Well, now I could chase them, so I'm trying to get one of every Pedro Martinez card from his playing days, which I'll be chasing that for the rest of my life. But you know, and that sucked me in. And then the more the Patriots dynasty continued, and the more, like, in the football season, I'd just be so sucked in. I started picking up a card here, a card there. And the longer this went, I'm like, man, this is really just something so special. Like, to see a dynasty that's this dominant for this long. And I won't say was, I'll say is, because I'm all Mac Jones. Let's go, brother. Mac Jones is going to bring this thing to a whole nother level. I'm not giving up. But yeah, so that changed my focus, and and now I'd say 80% of what I buy now is Patriots. I still go after my Pedros. I stopped doing the vintage, so it's Pedro Martinez and probably 80% Patriots.
Wow.
Joe, can you describe to our audience your top six items in your collection?
Sure. Man, it was tough to narrow that down. My first one, this would be kind of, when you think about top cards in your collection, it's hard to think that this would make the cut. But I got a 1995. This is right in the middle of the junk era. It's a Topps insert called Air Raid, and it's got Drew Bledsoe and Ben Coates on it. And this is your classic 90s junk era. I mean, there's nothing special about it, but it was autographed in person, and to me that was the beginning. They won't get a lot of credit for the franchise. Not for they get a lot of credit for the franchise. They won't get a lot of credit for the dynasty, but I mean that 93 Drew Bledsoe coming in, he really changed everything. And Ben Coates was my first favorite player, and man, those guys, they just lit it up, and so that's the first one I'll share. So it's an Air Raid 1995 Topps signed by Bledsoe and Coates. My second one, I have the 1991 Pro Line Portrait Bill Belichick autograph. Man, the GOAT.
All right.
And that's one, man, hobby and investment. I just think, man, every year this guy's legacy just grows a little stronger. I believe he's going to win more Super Bowls even without Brady, and that's going to further etch that in stone. No knock on Brady. That he's my all-time favorite player. But I think that that's one of those, you had two GOATs together. It's not one without the other. That was a joint effort, and that Belichick is definitely a treasured collection for me. I have here in front of me a 2017 Majestic Wondrous Receiver Troy Brown autograph, numbered to 25. Troy Brown was, man, that's just one of those guys. He was just so special. I just love his, I loved his attitude. I love the way he played. I love the whole do your job, man. That guy would do anything, anytime. He was just the consummate Patriot. And the card's just gorgeous. It's a black and white card with on-card signature in gold ink. It's just beautiful. Love Troy. Next one I'll share it's a 2020 Spectra, and I know a lot of people don't like the new shiny stuff, but and a lot of times I avoid it myself. It does in a lot of ways remind me of the junk era, but this one here, it's a commemorative card of Teddy Bruschi from Super Bowl 36, commemorating that, and it's gold prism looking, autographed, numbered 1 of 1, and man, it's just beautiful. And he's in there hoisting the trophy. And that Super Bowl 36, man, just brings me right back. Brings me right back to all those memories of that day and that amazing run. Next one is one that my wife actually purchased.
I always tell everybody that's the 4th best day of my life. Marriage, 2 kids being born, and that first Super Bowl was unbelievable. As a Patriots fan.
I could still hear John Madden saying, I don't agree with this. I don't agree with this.
Yeah,
they should just let this clock run out.
Let the clock run out and play for overtime. Yeah, no, not Belichick and Brady, man.
Yep.
That was
great day.
Such a day. I still remember it like it was yesterday. You give me warm fuzzies, Joe.
Yes, amen. My wife actually bought me this next one. It's a 2020 Select black numbered 1 of 1 Willie McGinnis autograph with a piece of his jersey in it, and the jersey's got a piece of the logo in it. Beautiful card. And Willie McGinnis, he's one of the guys. The more I've read throughout all these years, it was just he was such a key piece of building that culture. And again, he gets a lot of credit, but I just think he was just such an integral piece of what we're still seeing. I think he helped build it. He helped maintain it. He helped get into that where the players are passing it on, so it's going from team to team. And, he's a personal favorite player of mine. And my last the sixth most favorite, it is a Tom Brady autograph, but it's a mini helmet. I don't have a card of his yet. I do have the mini helmet, though, and it's got the old logo, Pat Patriot, and, can't get better than an autograph of the GOAT. Guy just transcends.
Bring back Pat.
Hey, Joe,
that's what I say.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Joe, quick question for you, because I'm not overly up on autographs, especially current guys. What is Brady's autograph on a card going for right now? I mean, are we looking at five figures?
No, but neither is my budget. To get a decent autograph Brady card now, you're looking at $3,000-$4,000, and if you're looking at a rookie, you're looking at five figures.
Wow. Amazing.
And you know what I really am puzzled by, he has to have signed a ton of stuff in his career. So it's not like, to me, there's a shortage of them. You know what I mean? So, and I realize, I know he's won everything, so on and so forth. So he's in demand, and his price for his autograph is higher. But wow, I didn't realize it was that much. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
To say the least.
I just think he's one of those guys now that it's just so big, like your Michael Jordan, like your Mickey Mantle, like your Wayne Gretzky. Like he's almost bigger than the sport at this point. And man, it seems like every year he hits and he does something else that you're like, man, you got to be kidding me. He's got to be done. And nope, there's another record. There's another untouchable mark that he's shattered, and it's just it's crazy.
Yeah, next week he's going to break Drew Brees' record again for most yards, right? He's about to surpass him again.
It's a shame he's going to do it in a loss.
Oh, would that be sweet or what?
That would be sweet.
I'm not counting that. I'm not counting on that, though. I hate to say it, but I'm going to be rooting hard. Hey, any interesting stories about, your search for autographs, your search for items, Patriots items, other items in your collection, anything you want to relay in terms of an interesting story about how you came upon something, got something?
I think you guys will love this one. So this is going to have to do with the Tom Brady mini helmet. So this is 8 years ago, right around Christmas time. I got to go to an event at Gillette, and it was a meet and greet. There was a little interview from Tom Brady. It was something that I was able to do through my work at the time, and there was only a couple hundred people there. And so, Tom came out and he answered a few questions, and everybody got to, just hear from him. And then, you got to go up afterwards and just get a picture with him. And at the end of the event, they gave everybody an autographed mini helmet. But so when you're heading up to go see him, there's still about, 200, 250 of us. So they were very clear. They're like, when you guys go up there, it's been a long day. He's got a lot of people to go through here. We've got a tight timeline. This isn't time for conversation. Shake his hand, say hello, and step aside. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen. I'm like, how many chances in my life am I going to get to talk to Tom Brady? So going backwards about an hour, my wife and I, we were 7 months pregnant at the time, and it was our first baby, and we had been arguing about our daughter's name all along. Good arguments, but we were debating the whole time. We couldn't land on a girl's name. On the way to Gillette, we decided what we were going to name our daughter, and I'm like, all right, we're not changing? And she's like, no, I agree. We're going with this. I'm like, all right. So we get up to see Tom Brady, and I say, hey, Tom, thank you so much for taking the time and doing this. I'm sure after, long day here at the field, lots of things you'd like to do, so I appreciate you taking the time and hanging out with us. And this may seem a little weird, but we're going to tell you the name of our unborn baby's, our unborn daughter's name, and nobody else knows. So that when she grows up, I can tell her that the first person to know your name was Hall of Fame quarterback Tom Brady. And he's like, what is it? And my wife is like, it's Madison McKenna Guerin. And he's like, I love it. so we shake his hand, get his picture. And my brother had also gone to the event, but he wasn't in my party. And so he was trying to eavesdrop, and I come off to the side, and he's like, I was trying to listen. Did you tell Tom the baby's name? I'm like, yeah. He goes, what is it? I go, none of your business. And he's like, no, seriously. I go, seriously, it's none of your business. So I'm driving home, and my father calls me, and he was the one that hooked me up with the tickets, and he says, your brother told me that you told Tom the baby's name? I said, yeah. And he says, well? I said, listen, can't Tom, Shelley, and I have our little secrets? All you need to know is that he approved. And he's like, no, I'm serious. I go, yeah, so am I. So for 3 weeks, nobody knew her name but Tom Brady.
Oh, classic. Hey, if he had said, how many signed items can I give you to name her Brady? How many would it have taken?
Probably just one. I'd probably change it.
Your wife, probably, right?
Yeah. Oh, she's as big of a Tom Brady fan, if not bigger than me. Actually, I'm going to say she is bigger because this week she'll tell me she's torn. But this week she's rooting for the Bucs. So we'll have some tension here. I want Tom Brady to look really good, but I still want him to lose.
Oh boy.
So, yeah, there'll be a little bit of tension this weekend.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What a story. That is incredible.
Yeah.
And probably I could just picture Brady coming home that night and saying, "Hey, some guy told me what his kid's name's going to be," and talk about it type of thing. Something completely.
I hope so. That would be pretty cool.
Track. Completely off track, and it probably sticks in his mind all the time. That type of thing.
Yeah,
that's really cool. That's a great story. I love that. That's great. Joe, question: Are you have any want list? Are you looking for any particular items besides Pedro's cards for your collection?
Yeah, so there's two big ones. One is I that SP authentic Tom Brady rookie graded by PSA. No way I'll ever see a 10, probably not a 9. But I've been thinking about the investment side of me tells me never do it, but like trade my vintage baseball to get a PSA 8, maybe a 9 if I could find the right one. Investment wise, it's probably not smart, but passion wise, this is to be honest, I barely even watch baseball now. I couldn't really tell you what's going on. Once the Red Sox won the World Series, that was it for me. That was the carrot I was waiting for all those years, and then I just kind of slowly fell out of it. So getting the Brady rookie, that would be a big one for me. The second one is surprisingly tough to find is Kevin Falk's rookie, PSA graded in a 10, and there's only 4 copies in existence that have been graded at 10. 1999. There's 4 graded copies, and 3 of them are in set registries, so I know they're not going anywhere. So there's basically one floating around that I'm hoping someday will turn up, and I can jump on it.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Wow.
Hey,
I didn't realize
awesome.
something from. I didn't realize something from 1999 would be that scarce. I mean, you figure with all the production of it, maybe it's just. For whatever reason, they can get a lot of grading on it, or there's no 10s out there.
It was a numbered card. I can't remember what it's numbered to. It's probably like 1,300 or something like that. And I Kevin Falk, for me, that's the hobby side. A lot of these guys I chase, I know I'm not retiring off this one day. Like these guys aren't household names outside of New England. A lot of people won't know who they are, especially 10, 15 years from now. So I think a lot of the Kevin Falks probably aren't even going to get graded. And a lot of them probably weren't taken care of either because he was never that household name. But for me, he was just one of those clutch guys who I found him to be incredibly talented. And we just never really had that run first attack. And he was just always that guy that just came up big. Guys like him, James White, I think they'll always be undervalued in the hobby because they don't put up the big stats. But if you actually watch the games, those are some of those guys that really set the tone. They change the momentum. They help with the culture. Really, really top-notch guys.
Yeah, I agree with that. Joe, off script, how many autographs of the Patriots do you actually have? Have you kept count or estimate count of how many pieces, cards?
I would estimate,
et cetera.
It's probably about 100, 150. It's about 150.
Wow. Okay.
Impressive. That is impressive.
And they're mostly cards, right? With the exception, obviously, of the Brady mini helmet, and I know you had a few photos here and there.
Yeah, 99% of it is. I don't like. I have some memorabilia like that. It's not something I collect. If I could trade the Brady mini helmet for a card, I would do it in a second. The cards in my collection. The other stuff is just stuff that I accumulate over the years, and don't want to part with.
That's neat. Very neat.
That's great stuff, Joe. Hey, can you give us some advice or give collectors some advice on, if you're just getting into the hobby, you're collecting football cards, memorabilia, what advice would you give to new people to the hobby?
Oh, man. With the amount of stuff being out there right now, it is overwhelming. So if there was one piece of advice, I would say to spend some time and think about what is it that you will enjoy chasing the most. But when I first started collecting, it was like, oh, that guy's good. Oh, that guy's good. Oh, that's a good price. And you very quickly, you'll run out of room in your house. You'll run out of money. You got to have a focus. You got to know who you like, why you like them, and what you're going after. And if it's a hobby, man, then 100%, collect what you like. I like Willie McGinnis, Kevin Falk, Troy Brown. Those cards are, I'm not going to make a killing on them if these get sold someday. But every time I flip through them, man, it's doing what the hobby's supposed to do. It's bringing that joy, that enjoyment, that connection to the game. If you're an investor, if this is just an investment for you, you got to go iconic. It has to be. It has to be Tom Brady. It has to be, Babe Ruth or Mickey Mantle or Wayne Gretzky or Michael Jordan, because Hall of Fame's not good enough. If you're an investor long term, Hall of Fame's not good enough anymore. There's a lot of really good players, and if you're investing, you will make money. They will slowly go up, but I just think about even like Marshall Faulk, who was a guy I really liked when I first jumped into football. Marshall Faulk really impressed me, and I really enjoyed watching him. In terms of investment, man, it's just not there. You have to be a GOAT, and anything else in terms of investment, if that's all you're looking at it as, I wouldn't do it. Now, as a fan, go after whatever you like, and that I've always thought that. I know some guys that collect some stuff that, to me, man, I don't even know if I'd keep it if I had it. But I'm glad that they like it and collect it and chase it, because that's the fun of it. That's the fun. The fun is the chase, to find the thing that you struggled to get, and then flip through it and be like, man, I remember when I couldn't find that, or if it brings you back to a moment, man, I remember that game, I remember that play. That's what it's all about.
That's great advice. Thanks, Joe, for that. That's awesome. Totally awesome.
That was good, Joe. That summarized it quite well, because, in the market today, I still maintain you have a hobbyist and you have the investor. And can they coexist with one another? I guess they can, in their limited fashion. But at the same time, like I always tell people, if you're that concerned about investing, go into the stock market. You know what I mean?
Right.
And leave the hobby be the hobby. And again,
yep.
to really date myself, in my days collecting in the beginning, again, I had no concept whatsoever that a set even existed, and I just bought the cards and kept putting them together, putting them in order, putting them in team order, so on and so forth. But back then, collecting to me was, if you went to a game, you got a program, you had a ticket stub. Most places had pocket schedules available, so I'd pick up one of those. And then there was always magazines on the newsstand, Sports Illustrated, Sport, the annuals of the day. And to me, that's what collecting was all about. So I still am very, very, very close to publications, because I really think they're they were classic sports at one time, especially in the 50s, 60s, and up through the 80s, whereas today now there's virtually no sport magazine on the market. Everything's online, yada, yada, yada. But that was real collecting for me, too. So it's an interesting perspective seeing where you come from. And it's a great story, to say the least. I love that Brady story, though. I got home from it, though. That's a great one.
Yeah.
That's great.
I love what you're saying there about the heart of collecting, because that's how it's always been for me too. Like I've got stacks of newspapers from the day after the big Super Bowl wins. Again, are they worth a ton? Probably not, but they are to me, and that's where the fun is. And in terms of, like, you had mentioned, the investors and the collectors and can they coexist? It's I always find it kind of funny how much of I don't want to say hate. Hate's a strong word, but how much they like to argue against each other. Man, I think it's all great for the hobby. Yeah. I really do. I look at some of the stuff that people are buying now and they're paying huge money for, and I don't get it. Like, there is no way. I even like that guy. There's no, like, some of the Tom Brady cards that are coming out now that aren't even that rare are worth twice as much as his rookies. I don't get it. I don't. Yeah, and I would never fork that amount out. But the fact that there's new money coming into the hobby and new collectors jumping in, I think it's great. I mean, it's only going to help the whole thing overall. After the junk era, when everything crashed in the early 90s, I still collected, but it looked like it was, this might be petering out, that this might be heading down a bad path. And, to see it make this kind of comeback and to see the way, I mean, I don't like what happened, like, at people fighting over packs. I don't like any of that, but I like the fact that people wanted the cards, I think that's exciting.
Yeah.
So whatever they bring to the hobby, it's a plus.
Yeah, no, you don't hear many people talking about how when the baby boomers die off, the hobby's going to die anymore. Isn't that funny? Like 5 years ago, that's all you heard about was, as soon as these people are dead, nobody's going to want their stuff. Well, that is sure swung around, hasn't it?
Correct. That's a good thing. It's a good thing for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Well, Joe, we're almost out of time. Thank you for being on and sharing your collection and your stories with us. That was a great trip down memory lane. And, again, I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule for coming on to the show. And thanks for being on.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, guys. Hope you have a great night.
Thanks, Joe.
You too. And again, if you're not a subscriber to Gridiron Greats magazine, what are you waiting for? Check out our website, gridirongreatsmagazine.com. What are you waiting for? All right, we've got a few more minutes left. We're going to go into our 2-minute warning. Jeff, I'm going to hand off to you. What'd you pick up on tonight's show?
I could talk to Joe all day. Probably because he's a Patriots fan, of course. But, no, what passion he has. He said 2 words that I really keyed in on that I'm just really on board with. One is, that you should focus on the things you're passionate about and you love. And he just shows so much passion, for what he collects and what he likes. And for the hobby, he's everything that's right about the hobby, right? And he said fun, too, right? I mean, it's supposed to be fun. This isn't, something that's supposed to be stressful. You're upset or get mad when you miss on stuff or don't win it. I mean, that's not what hobbies are for, right? It should be fun. And
I agree.
Joe is he's just right on it. I could just listen to him all day talk about his stuff because he's got such passion and he's so focused just on enjoying the hobby and having fun and collecting what you love and just doing it the right way, I just love talking to people like that,
I agree 100%.
He's got a heck of a collection.
I agree 100%. It's nice to hear somebody that passionate about their collection, enjoying it for what it is. And, you got your white whales you're going to go for, and you'll pick them up at some point. And you keep it in perspective, and that's very, very important in the hobby itself. And, I always tell people, if you don't keep it in perspective and you make it another job, it's really not collecting. It's not a hobby in any way, shape, or form. So again, you got to keep everything in perspective, to say the least. So it's important. It's important. I've been very, very blessed over the years to see in person and to talk to people about their collections, hundreds of collections. And it just never ceases to amaze me that I could talk to a new guest on a show, go and interview somebody for the Super Collector article for the magazine, and I'm always amazed at what people are collecting and their viewpoints on the collections and their passion and enjoyment for the collections. It's just it's great. It makes me feel good that there is going to be a future of the hobby when I'm long gone, and people are still going to be collecting those 65 tall boys and a lot of other
Absolutely.
stuff. All right, we got about a minute left. Jeff, any final thoughts in 30 seconds or less?
Let's just keep this hobby rolling, Bob. I mean, it's people like Joe and you that make it work, and I mean, let's just keep sharing knowledge. And you know, obviously, you and I, we talk a lot on VSP and whatnot, and I mean, we just got to keep pushing people to focus on the positives in the hobby and focus on having fun and passion and just enjoying each other, right? Just having fun, talking and hanging out like we just did with Joe. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yep, exactly. Well, we're almost out of time. Again, check our website, gridirongreatsmagazine.com, and that's all we have for tonight. Thanks for listening. Hopefully we're going to be back within the next couple of weeks with another episode. And, Jeff, thanks for filling in tonight, and I appreciate you coming on, and we'll be talking. Thanks for listening.
It was fun.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I wanted to thank you for stopping by to listen to another episode here on the Sports History Network. Our podcasters are passionate about uncovering and sharing sports stories from yesteryear. And if you didn't know it already, we have over 30 shows across the network covering all sorts of sports history topics. In fact, here's a glimpse into one of our awesome podcasts here on the network.
Each week, the official Football Learning Academy podcast will take you deep into the history of pro football through interviews with players, coaches, or administrators in the NFL, as well as interviews with Pro Football Hall of Fame selectors, authors, and historians. You'll learn how the game evolved and important moments that shaped the sport into what it is today. And don't miss the Pro Football History Nugget of the Week. Listen to the official Football Learning Academy podcast on the Sports History Network.
How about that? I bet you're super hyped to go listen to that new podcast, right? Well, to learn about this show and all the other podcasts on the network, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Again, that's sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Head over there today to find your next favorite sports history podcast.